Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 806. That's right, 806 episodes, and it's also being broadcasted live on YouTube at youtube.com/Joseph Clough, C-L-O-U-G-H. So be sure to join us, be a part of the pre-show, the after show, where we get to connect and we can go deeper into your questions as well. So it's a real loving, nice community we're building up there. Now, in today's episode, these ones are usually more kind of like motivational, but I want this one to be more of a motivation, but also a conversation. I want us to have a conversation about being an investor into happiness. And really why I want to do it in a conversational way is I don't want to push up against too much of your boundaries straight away. I want us to have an honest look as to what we're doing and is it matching the actually desired output when it comes to your outcome. That's what I'm really after. So be gentle, but be an awakener to this. Because there's much to be said about having epiphanies, awakenings, to really see the truth. I was speaking to someone today that ultimately there's 4 levels of learning. The first level is unconscious incompetence. That unconscious incompetence is like we don't know what we don't know, right? We're just existing. We don't have any unconscious idea that there's an issue. But then we have this kind of conscious incompetence. It's like, oh my goodness, now I know I have an issue, but I'm incompetent in solving it. So I now know that I got something, but I just don't know how to solve it. Then the next level is conscious competence. That's when you're starting to implement the learnings. You're starting to do what has to be done. And then the last level is unconscious competence. It's almost like we're handing over the success strategy to the unconscious mind. To paint an image or an example for this for you, is how it comes into play, is imagine that you want to learn to drive a car. But before you wanted to learn to drive the car, there was a period of time when you didn't even know what a car was. You had no idea what one was. You may have never seen a car before. But then you began to realize, that's a car, but I don't know how to drive one. Which would be the second one, right? The conscious incompetence. I know they can drive, but I don't know how to drive. So then we go on lessons. We get educated. And I don't know about you, but when I learned to drive, it was a bit of a nightmare. Like I was consciously having to be aware of so many things, from the speedometer, the mirrors, the even like the back mirror, whatever you call that one, all of them, right? I had to be aware of I'm trying to get my English and my American side going here, always confusing at times, but you had like the clutch for the gears, you had the acceleration, you had the brakes. It was very much a consciously overwhelming experience at first, but you did the work. You went to another lesson and another one, to eventually maybe you pass a test, and then you're all by yourself driving around. And then after a period of time of having consciously become competent at this, you handed it over to your unconscious mind. And that is where you go, how did I get here? Like, did I go for a red light? I was too busy listening to a podcast or thinking about my day. But of course, you didn't go through that red light. It's just your unconscious mind assumed it. And it just carried it on for you. And we can now paint that same picture when it comes to our issues. We think about something for a long time, about negative thoughts, or we go through an experience, the unconscious mind goes, boom, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. It assumes it to be true. And it's harder, those ones, because they're our identity. I am not fill in the blank. Our identity is tied to our capacity and therefore dictates our behavior and how we show up in our environment. And if we're not getting the results in our environment, it's a feedback loop to, oh my goodness, that is why I'm not good enough. That is why I fear failure. That is why I fear rejection. That is why maybe I'm a codependent on someone or people. So just think about this in those 4 stages. Unconscious incompetence, I don't know what I don't know. Conscious incompetence, which is now I realize I don't know. Then conscious competence is the art of practicing something that you're consciously competent at it. And then the last one is unconscious competence, where you hand it over. Now, how does this tie into this conversation about being an investor in your happiness, being an investor into your success? Well, we have to have that conscious awakening from the unconscious incompetence of just going through life, or even the conscious incompetence of going, oh my goodness, I'm anxious, I'm worried and fearful, but I'm not doing anything about it. I'm thinking that's just who I am. I'm broken and I'm unfixable. We need to bridge the gap. We need to get to that conscious competence, and that is the wake-up call that we're going to be discussing. You see, this is not to push up against your boundaries, but hopefully allow them to be apparent, right? We're making the invisible visible. We're seeing, well, am I really restricted, or is it a self-imposed restriction? Sometimes I call it building the cages around us, right? We're building our own prison by enforcing the same old stories that we have, the same old thoughts that we tell ourselves, the same things that we assume to be true. I always like to think about, like, say, hypnosis is undoing bad trances. It's undoing bad hypnotic suggestions which were assumed to be true. Like maybe your mum said something, your dad said something, and we go, oh my goodness, that's why I've got to be perfect, and that's why I'm not enough. We assume that narrative and story to stay the same. So we get put in a prison, but then we add to the cages around us by keep on going down that same story. And if we keep on saying, I'm broken and I'm unfixable, then you're just denying yourself the freedom to choose differently. Now, I'm not saying it like, oh, this is easy, because it's not. We're talking about the unconscious mind here. But in order to break through to the unconscious mind, the unconscious competence, in other words, having success on autopilot, having the relationships where you are just unconsciously aligned to that desire, where you assume the feeling of I'm worth it, I'm deserving of it, and therefore your unconscious mind goes with you, that means you're free of resistance. Right? But in order to be free of the resistance, you need to become consciously aware of what you're presently doing. So ask yourself, what stories do you tell yourself? Really consider that. Are you the storyteller of the doom and gloom, that I'm not enough, that I'm not worthy, and therefore enforcing that as a boundary to your success? Or are you going to be someone today, starting today at the very least, but actually it is my birthright to know that I'm worthy and enough, to have that goal, to have that success? Now, when we get to that level, we've got to understand that we have ultimately one level of thinking, which is the things that you tell yourself, the thoughts where you're enforcing this new goal and strategy. I'm immersing myself with positivity. I'm surrounding myself with people who lift me up. I'm surrounding myself with education, not just information. There's a lot of information, but the implementation of that education to really grow, right? So there's like the thinking on one axis. But then on the other, the vital part that a lot of people forget is the doing, is your behaviors. And if we're going to get the conscious and unconscious competence in our success, we need an equal level of output. So in order to know your output, you've got to understand your story and go, I'm not going to do this anymore. I refuse to pass down the same story to those in my life. Then you have to go, what am I doing about it? I want it in my mind, like I want that relationship, I want that X amount of $1,000 every single month, or that health, that career, that business. I want that and I think about it, but if there's no action, it's just wishful thinking. Let's be honest. We can all imagine great things, but to make it a reality, we have to show up with action, like getting education to learn to drive. You see, if you think about your first beginning set of years on this earth, it was all about education, right? You go to preschool, or you go to nursery school. Then in England, it'll be primary school, then secondary school, then college, and then university. If you went to those levels, I didn't. I dropped out at college. I wasn't very good at that because of my issue. And for America, I'm not very good at the schooling system, but like say high school and sophomore or whatever it is, right? So the initial ages of our life was all about education and hopefully implementation of that education. Sometimes we don't know why we're learning, and that's one of my issues with school is here's maths or math, depending if we're in America or England, and we don't know why. But good education would give you the reasons as to why you're doing what you're doing, which in this case, to the present day, is why you want to achieve your goals, right? That's the positive thinking. This is the reason why I want to achieve it. If I can come up with those reasons, then I can come up with enough leverage to get my unconscious mind to know that this is so important for me. So once we go ahead and do that, we got to start to implement. That's the doing. So now if you begin to know, yeah, there's what I want. There's why I want it. I don't know how to get there yet, but now I've got to think, like, do I need lessons? Do I need to be conscious of my present output? You see, doing nothing is a form of doing something. Don't quote me on that, but doing nothing is a form of something. And what I really mean by that is, if you're not dedicated to change, you're dedicated to staying the same. That's what I mean. But also, we can be doing behaviors which aren't geared. So where it be doing nothing, we can have more behaviors geared to doing negative things, or at least behaviors which aren't supportive of that goal and dream. For example, some people say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to meditate, Joseph. I don't have enough time to do this one module every week, which is part of like my program. If we're having a conversation, they go, I can't put 1 hour aside. But if we really get the conscious competence and awakening, we can go, well, let's take a real look at this. Let's look at it objectively. What are you doing throughout the day? Well, I go to work, and then what? I cook some dinner, then what? Well, I go ahead and watch TV. You're watching TV. So you have time that you're investing into the sedation, not to say it's all sedation. Look, I watch Netflix. I love movies. I love documentaries. I do that stuff. But if there's something on my heart that I want to let go of, I'm sure going to start to recognize that putting my time and energy and doingness, if that's even a word, doingness, into, say, changing my state, losing myself in a TV show, if that's not as important compared to my goal, then what am I investing in? And think about it for yourself. Are you investing more in the observation of a TV show and compared to into your own personal development, where you could be doing meditation, you could hire a coach, you could hire or enroll on a program and all those kind of things. It could be reading a book, could be anything, could be journaling. But if we're prioritizing the TV, to just go real vague on it, over our own education, you are an investor, not in your happiness, but in the sedation. And by sedation, I just mean to change my state of my present negativity. That's a bit of a problem. Am I an investor in my happiness and success, or am I an investor into the observation of a TV show? And you get to choose it, and that's why it's an open conversation. That's why I want us to be conscious. I'm not here to tell you. I'm here to hopefully challenge you, because challenging is a leader to growth. But the same thing when it comes to investing in our happiness in terms of money. Some people might say, well, I don't have enough money to invest in myself. Where sometimes that very same person has just purchased a brand new iPhone, even if it was a monthly thing. Some people might be going out to dinner. Some people might be going on a night out with their friends, spending, I don't know how much it is for, say, like a pint of beer these days, but say it's £5 or $6, $7, whatever it is, that builds up over time, right? That is an expense, but it's also an investment. Are we investing in ourselves, or are we investing in going out for the night? Now, I'm not one here to judge. I love going out. I don't really do it that often because I'm usually immersed in what I'm doing, like my content. But I do like going out to restaurants. I like that. But I'm not going to prioritize that investment there until I've solved this present investment of myself and my own happiness. So, going back to that honest conversation, when it comes to your ability for output, is it invested in the right way, right? Some people will do nothing. Some people will do something else to try to not do the thing they really should be doing. And if you want to be able to get to that conscious competence and therefore beyond the unconscious autopilot way of living where your unconscious mind is free of resistance and therefore you're 100% congruent and aligned to your desires and your dreams, you have to have the awakening. What am I doing? Where am I spending my time? Where am I investing my time? I always say this, life is the longest thing we ever do, but it's a thing which is getting ever so short, right? It's the longest thing we do, but it's getting less and less and less each day. So when we think about getting the unconscious mind to make that change, you have to have the conscious awareness of your own output. How can your unconscious mind possibly go for your goals and dreams when you're not doing it for yourself? I always say the conscious mind is the goal setter and your unconscious mind is the goal getter. So your conscious mind, that's you by the way, that's you, have to go, what am I doing? What do I need to do? What do I get to do? Because you get to choose ultimately. You get to choose the investment that you put in. And I'm not talking initially about money. Money solves problems, right? Very much like you go to school, you want to be able to get something in return. So I want our unconscious mind to go, well, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is what the unconscious mind has to do to get there. So ask yourself, what am I presently doing that if I did differently? Or what can I implement that if I start now, that will cause me to make the changes that I desire, to achieve the goals and dreams that I want? That's the ultimate truth. And that's where you've got to take that conscious look and go, am I doing the work? And if you are, good and great. If it's getting the results that you want, then good and great. But if not, then maybe you have to prioritize differently. You've got to go, maybe I'm not doing what I should be doing. Maybe I need to start implementing a different strategy. Maybe I need to get more help. I need more people on my team, like supporters and things like that. We want to just make sure that you're doing the work, not just negating it by doing other investment activities which are at the detriment to your success, like social media, like the news, like going out all the time. Not to say that that stuff's wrong, but I prefer to think that stuff's right when you've made that change, when you've got that goal and dream. So, like I said, be conscious of all of this. Allow yourself to know that actually there's another way of being, because it is all on us and we can make that change if you truly desire to want to make that change. Now, of course, if you ever need help with that, you can go ahead and apply to work with us. You don't have to, by the way. It is a fully customized and tailored experience that causes the unconscious mind to make the change on your behalf. Yeah, you got to show up and do the work, but within 8 weeks, you let go of the problem. Like I said, it's fully customized to your needs and your desires. And yeah, there's an investment, of course, but that investment is a lifetime of freedom in return. So you can go to josephclough.info/talk to go ahead and book your call. you go ahead, book your call so you can have a chat with a team member, and therefore fill out a questionnaire, your application form, and we'll get clear on exactly what you want to let go of, exactly what you want to achieve, get clear what's stopping you get there, and then we'll come up with a plan to make it a reality if you're a good fit. If not, we'll point you in a different direction, because we only get results with people we want to work with. And of course, you've got to be a right fit for the problem, which is like, I've got the fear of failure, fear of not being enough, not deserving, good enough, capable, not valued, I don't feel love, all those kind of things. That's what we do. So that's josephclough.info/talk. Now, of course, you can go ahead and check out the app, right? Free hypnosis .app will cause you to be able to download the app. That's still an investment of your time, right? Educating yourself, but make sure you have the implementation of the advice that I give freely on the episodes. Or if you're seeking external, make sure you do the implementation there. You have everything you need to make that change. Just become consciously aware of what's happening, what you're doing. And if I'm investing the right energy, the right time to live that life of ultimate freedom. So with that, my friends, I look forward to speaking to you on a future episode. Many thanks and goodbye.